This is part 2 of stakeholder management in Dataverse and Power BI. Today we're going to take a look at building that Power BI report and adding some measures where appropriate.
All right, so last time this is where we left off. We had the stakeholder management, or we had stakeholders version 2 in our XPM solution. So we have stakeholder participation, in-project relations, in-project engagements. And we of course have the option to see that broader as well, where we have stakeholders as a tab. And we can look at all the participations in the whole system. So we have the stakeholders, we have the initiatives or projects, if a person is at risk, if it is a decision maker, what the support level is, and so on. We also have the relations, and we also have the engagements. And what you'll see in some of these engagements and some of the relations, that no initiative is actually added here. And that is because it is a relation or an engagement that is across different projects. So now that we have these values in here, we have participation, relations, engagement, and we have our projects and we have our resources, we need to have them in our Power BI reports, of course. So I've created this lovely Power BI file for myself, and I'm going to add the stakeholder tables and the structure based on what we talked about last time. Luckily, there is a very easy connection with Dataverse for us. So Dataverse, if I click on that, a connection will be made based on my profile. So it already knows that I have access to multiple environments, and I sure hope that this isn't a scenario that you have as a normal user in one organization. But since I am a consultant, I have multiple environments. One of them is my own environment. And if I open that up, I can select multiple tables from that Dataverse. Now I know that one of them is called initiative. And here we have that one. So that's initiative. And we also have resource. And we also have our stakeholder project, or participation, engagement, and relations. So we have 3 tables that are specifically related to the stakeholders, and we have our project and our resource. So let's transform the data. I never want to directly load that information because there's always something that I want to change. So let's import. Direct query is not needed for something that is not that fluent, right? Direct query is something that you typically do if the information is fast paced. And once these are loaded, we will take a look at things we will remove from our tables and things that we will keep. I've already prepared some of the information that I want to retain because, yeah, I've done some groundwork already. And this is the file that I created. So we have our participation, we have some columns that we remove, we added a conditional column, as well as changing the types to be more accommodating with what we need to work with in relation to our stakeholder reports. So this is the participation. Let me just grab that. So for participation, I can go to the advanced editor, and I'll just replace this. And that gives us a clean table with the participation ID, the related project, project name, related resource, resource name, stakeholder, what type of stakeholder they are, if it's a neutral stakeholder, and all the things that we've discussed last time as well. So let's do that on the engagements as well, where I have, or well, let's take relations first. Relations. And engagements. Navigating to advanced editor. Because yeah, we basically already have this information somewhere. And here you'll see the different types of engagements that we had. And for this row here, this was that engagement without a direct project related to Alice's talk together with me. Increase the knowledge of Gantt charts in Power BI. Lovely. So let's continue with initiatives and resources. And these are the typical tables we have in our project management solutions. So it is a good bet to say that you would already have that as well. Going to initiative, advanced editor, updating that. And with that, we have our 5 tables. And with that, we have our 5 tables with the information that we actually need. We have our projects with a unique identifier as well as an owner. We have our resources with a unique identifier and a name, as well as the links to the other project tables, as well as the other stakeholder tables. We have stakeholder engagements, participations, and stakeholder relations. Engagements, participations, and relations. Let's click on Close and Apply and see what that information looks like when we put that in a table. All tables are loaded, and if I look at the model view, we already see a nice star schema showing up. Of course, we might want to adjust that a little bit. Let's do that down the line. Let's first start creating a overview per project. So we have our project table. We have our names of our projects. Then we could have the participation information here as well, where we could say, okay, let's have the stakeholders in here, and let's see their support level, and let's see their time spent and influence scores. All right, excellent. In here, we already have some table information that is related to our stakeholders. We can also increase this by selecting resources here. And, well, that doesn't look good, right? It should be the display name. And if we change that to a filter, we can take a look at Alice, and we see everything that Alice as a stakeholder is doing. Also myself or Hendrik. Hendrik isn't on any of them, so Hendrik is on one of them, so he shows up. That's nice. We have Paul. Paul isn't a stakeholder anywhere. That's good. All right, so this is a really nice overview of our stakeholders' participation. We can increase this by adding, for instance, the engagements, and we can set stakeholder engagement. Oh, hold on. Count of stakeholder engagement. We can set that to count. And now we have the amount of times we've talked with Alberto on this project, as well as with Daniel and so on. This might also be a relationship to Alberto in general. So if we check on Alberto, no, it's actually the engagement that is the combination of the stakeholder as well as Alberto. So that is great. So the count of stakeholder engagement is also something that you can directly extract from these tables. Of course, we can duplicate this and we can take another look at a different table that we would be interested in. I can just move this a little bit to the side, and we can take a look at resources. Oh, again with the display name, resources, and we can take a look at the relations. We can see if that relation is nope, that's not linked up to it correctly. So let's not do that through the display name of the resource itself, but let's take a look at the source and the target stakeholder and what type of a relation they have. And what happens if I select Alberto here? There's no direct link to the resource and that stakeholder relations. Again, that would be something that we would update here in this type of relationships tables as well. So looking at the core tables, we can already see that we can have more advanced reporting capabilities. But what I want to do for my future video is I want to be able to build those stakeholder force-directed graphs. So with the help of my lovely friend ChatGPT, I created two DAX tables. One is called Nodes Solo and one is called Nodes Unified. So the Nodes Solo will grab all of our stakeholder relations and it will create singled out nodes per project. So Alice, for instance, is working on multiple projects, but we will duplicate Alice as her name as she will show up multiple times on that stakeholder engagement, on that stakeholder force-directed graph. So in here, you'll see the influence, support, the role, the decision maker, time allocated, and if it's a risk. We also have the node ID, we have the contact ID, which is the related resource, we have the project, we have a label that is that display name of the resource as well as the project. And this combination makes it unique. The node ID is unique per combination of resource and project. So if I click on cancel here, what you'll see is that that node silo table shows up. So let's do that as well for our unified table. And new table, and I'll paste that DAX query. And this is a more complex setup where a resource only shows up once. So it is a more combined effort. It's more a combined table than that siloed one. So let's take a look at the information that is in that silo. We have contact ID, we have the influence, let's just add all of them and talk briefly on that topic. Contact ID, is there a decision maker? Then this is the combination of both the resource and the project. So we have Daniel multiple times on different projects. As well as if it's a risk, if it's a role sponsor, any type of information here. We can fine tune that information just a little bit by going in and changing the filter to look at roles, for instance. Now we can see how many people are supporters, how many are SMEs, how many are line managers, and we can extend that by adding, for instance, where are you? The label. We can find out who is an SME anywhere. We can find Alberto is an SME somewhere. Cedric is an SME. Hubert, Ivan, and Sally. Excellent. So this is table-wise our stakeholder table structure, as well with our DAX 2 tables, as well as our 2 DAX tables and our core tables. In the next video, I'm going to spice this up and make some visuals related to the stakeholders and finish off the topic of stakeholder management in Power BI and Power Platform. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time.